We're going to chat about Akasa Air, and we have none other than Vinay Dube, the founder, MD, and Chief Executive Officer, right here in our studios. Vinay, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining in. Tell us what's happening in the Indian skies right now. There's competition, there's news flow, a lot of issues as well that you keep hearing about with regards to Boeing. Of course, we're going to address that in greater detail, but sort of set the roadmap for us.
Yeah, I'd say, as I think about Indian aviation,
Sure.
I don't think of perhaps any of the words that you've used. For me, it is growth, it is excitement, it is a future where you have, cities that are connected, that aren't connected today. It's passenger convenience, it is support of the economy. And at Akasa, we're just very happy to be a part of that because we've got this incredible order for 226 aircraft.
Yeah.
So we're part of India's growth story. We can help underpin the economic growth as is required with strong transportation links. We're India's most on-time airline, and so we have a real sort of approach to service excellence, that we hope is not, seen so far. And so for me, it's just excitement in the future. And, to top it all off, we are starting our first international flight. And so we get to plant the orange Akasa flag in Doha, Qatar here just in a few days. And we've broken all records with it, right? We're the first airline to fly internationally within 19 months when most others have taken about 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the reason why I'm so excited.
Yeah, we can sense the excitement in your voice, but tell us a little bit more about the other international routes that are planned. What's the timeline in place for that?
Yeah, sure. So I think beyond Doha, what we have announced, and we have to be a little careful in terms of what we can announce as an airline because competition law forbids us from really signaling every single destination that you can go to. And so we talk really in terms of the traffic rights that we've been allocated because that's largely a public piece of information. And so there's Kuwait, there's Riyadh, there's Jeddah on the heels of Doha, perhaps later this summer. And I can't give you a definitive timeline because we're working with these foreign governments to get the appropriate approvals before we can launch it. But that's just the start. Other parts of the Indian subcontinent, whether it's Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Kathmandu, etc., or Southeast Asia, other parts of the Middle East. So you will find Akasa not just enter in record time, but you'll find us expand into international markets in record time just because, we think we've got the capability. We think the Indian economy and the youth of India today wants international experiences.
Sure.
And we're hopefully here to serve them.
Why Doha, though? Is that the hottest destination right now?
Well, I think...
Or upcoming one?
Yeah, I think, as you know, different people define hotness in different ways, to use your term. You ask my wife, she wants to go X. You ask me, why, and I have 3 kids, and they want to go to 4 different destinations.
Absolutely.
But Doha has a very, very large, and this is over a long period of time, demand between Doha and India. And it's for a variety of reasons. Some of it linked to tourism, but most of it linked to business. And over periods of time, I think you'll find in the Middle East, across the board, Indians go there as nurses and teachers, doctors, at one end, but even, electricians and bus drivers, construction workers at the other end. So there's really this huge spectrum of traffic that travels between India and Doha, as they do between India and Saudi Arabia, India and Kuwait. So these are very, very strong destinations for Indian airlines as a whole.
Well, for Akasa, if you see, it has been so far a stellar run. Within 19 months, you have a fleet of around 24 aircraft. You're flying to more than 20 domestic destinations, and the international one also you're starting very soon. But one of the main concern that has been there in the market is related to Boeing. A lot of technical issues is what Boeing has been facing. A lot of regulators globally have raised concerns. So far in India, we have not seen any bigger issue as such. But internally, are you evaluating to take aircraft deliveries or to consider any other aircraft provider like Airbus for that matter? And also, are you facing any issues with deliveries?
Yeah, so let's sort of divide this up. First, I will say that Akasa has the highest standards of global safety, and we'd like to sort of emphasize that no amount of of safety is sufficient. You know, as an airline, as an aircraft manufacturer, we continue to push our focus on safety. You'd mentioned in India there are no issues, and you know, part of the reason in India there are no issues is because some of the variants that are flying in India are very different from the variants that have reportedly had issues on the Boeing side. So I want to make that, you know, extremely clear. I want to make that clear that, you know, our aircraft and the rest of Boeing aircraft continue to get certificates of airworthiness from the regulators, not just in India, but the regulators in the US as well. So I want to be very unequivocal in the fact that these are extremely safe aircraft to fly on. And so no, we're not looking at any changes as far as the aircraft that we're flying today here in India. And we're very proud. And by the way, you know, this translates into Akasa's reliability, right? I mentioned it before a few minutes ago. We are India's most on-time airline, not for 1 month or 2 months, but literally for the 19 months that we've been in inception. And our reliability doesn't stop at just on-time performance. You know, it goes to our baggage delivery. It goes to, you know, the reliability of our technology and every other facet, because that's the focus that we have at Akasa.
But are you facing any delays from Boeing's end?
So I will tell you that that Boeing and us continue to realign our expectations when it comes to aircraft delivery. And at this point in time, our expectations and Boeing's delivery abilities are highly aligned. But I would like to maybe shed some light, because we do get asked these questions: are there delays? Are there not delays? So I just want to give you our perspective. And our perspective is that, you know, a delay of an aircraft here or there, 1, 2, 5, it doesn't matter. But that's the difference between growing at 150% or growing at 130%, right? And it doesn't matter to us. It really doesn't matter whether we grow at 120, 150, 80, 90. These are growth rates that the world hasn't seen. These are growth rates that India is proud of. These are growth rates that we can do not because we're just Akasa, but because we're in India and we're flying and growing on the backs of the Indian economy, right? And so it doesn't really matter to us. One up and down makes no difference. What we are focused on is service excellence. What we're focused on is reliability. What we're focused on is our financial foundation, right? We've said this before, that we're a cash flow positive company, right? Think of it, 19 months of operation, and we've not spent 1 rupee, not 1 rupee of the initial investment that we got, you know, 2.5 years ago. That's the financial foundation that we are focused on, irrespective of whether it's 80% growth or 140% growth. And that's the reason why, you know, I'm answering the way that I am, is we realign our expectations and we're just fine with it.
But to hold on to that 130% growth, right?
Well,
Okay.
I'm giving you
A
sort
ballpark,
of, yeah,
okay.
yeah, just the
100,
senses.
130.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you have sort of a watermark, watershed point beyond which a delay would, from Boeing's end, is going to dampen your growth rate, or sort of your back of the envelope calculations, right? So how much of a delay is okay, and how much beyond that do you sense discomfort?
Yeah, I will tell you that 80% growth, so if you reduce it,
okay,
by any standards is not dampening anything. We rejoice 80%. We rejoice 60%. Okay. So there's no such mark. I mean, for us, it's always been, you know, continue to grow with a strong financial foundation, continue to grow with happy employees, continue to grow with incredibly satisfied customers. So these are the aspects for us. Even 10, 20, 30% differential in growth in terms of what we may have planned 2.5 years ago doesn't dampen our spirits at all.
But at an average, how much months of delay
these are things. These are things we just don't make public, and the reason we don't make public is because these tend to take a life on their own, as opposed to focus on the fact that Akasa is and has been and will continue to be the world's fastest growing airline, right? And a delay of a month or two here and there, or 5 months or 2 months or 8 months, does not change that statistic. And that's the reason why I'd, you know, prefer for us to have that conversation related to you know, the incredible growth that we're facing, as opposed to a month or two here or there.
Sure.
So in terms of, you know, this growth that you're looking at, how much of capacity are you looking to deploy when it comes to foreign airlines versus domestic, if you could share?
Yeah, we don't have specific numbers, and we don't have specific numbers because one of the things I learned early in my career is that you can't be emotionally attached to the network decisions that you make. So if I were to say a 25-75% split, then delivering on that 25% might mean we have to fly some unprofitable international sectors, and we just don't want to do that. So I'll answer it in a slightly different way. I'll answer it in the fact that we believe we'll get to an international domestic mix within the next 2 to 3 years that for most mature airlines took 15, right? To give you a sense of how fast we think we can grow international profitably and the kind of potential that India has for international travel. And maybe I'll paint a little picture. Some of you probably aren't young enough to remember this Chevy Chase movie that was released in the 80s, where there's this Japanese tourist with the Japanese camera. And so, in the 80s and 90s, there was this, I think a bit nasty stereotype of Japanese travelers going around the world, perhaps not conversant in English, with their cameras. And then that Japanese traveler became the Chinese traveler in the 90s and early 2000s. My view is that for the next 20 years, it's going to be the Indian tourist that goes all over the world. And again, this is not an Akasa story. This is an India Inc. story. Sure. And it's on those backs that we will find Akasa expanding internationally, right? And so to answer your question, it is going to be pretty massive in a way that hasn't been seen before. It'll take us 3 years for what other carriers have spent 15, 20 years doing.
So which are these profitable international routes that you're actually eyeing right now?
Start with Doha, which we're flying here in a week, Riyadh, Jeddah, Kuwait. Literally all the ones that I have named, whether it's Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Kathmandu, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. Our planes have an ability to hit Hong Kong. Our planes have an ability to hit deep into Indonesia. Our planes have an ability to hit East Africa. And I think over a period of time, all of these geographies, the former CIS countries, whether it's Kazakhstan, other places north of India, I think all of them. I personally spent a long weekend in Vietnam. We have a Vietnam Airlines flight. We have a Vietjet flight that's going full all the time. So you will find all of these destinations are something that not just Akasa flies, but I think over time you'll start seeing multiple Indian carriers fly to these.
You've got the other players. Air India, for instance, has been revamping. We're talking about Indigo expanding. There's a potential comeback of Jet Airways. What about the competitive intensity? Does that worry you?
Not at all. And the reason it doesn't worry us is because we continue to be India's fastest growing airline. We continue to have the most competitive cost structure. We built this in a base. We've got an incredibly solid financial foundation. And with that as a base, if we can keep our customers happy as we are, talked about our on-time performance, our baggage delivery. I haven't begun to touch upon the feedback we're receiving. The way I describe the feedback we're receiving is just a bit of gentility and kindness in terms of our airport experience. I've
heard that too, with domestic flights via Akasa, great experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. We're so proud of our employees. And again, to get back to your question here, the growth in India is such that we don't need another carrier to fail for us to succeed. The growth rate in India is such that if we just focus on ourselves, we will be successful and the others can be successful too. That's the India story. And so we're really hyper-focused on service excellence, really serving our passengers well.
One of the other concerns that has now been concerning the market is the DGCA norms regarding the pilot fatigue that they are addressing. They have not extended the deadline. June 1st is the deadline, and a lot of market experts are saying that there would be a pilot shortage in the industry. How are you addressing this issue, and is that actually an issue for Akasa at this moment?
Yeah, so first let me address this very directly in a few different ways. First, let us all, market pundits, airlines, the travelers, let us all applaud DGCA, our regulator, for their continued focus on safety. let this conversation not be distracted of whether for safety it's going to take 5 less pilots or 5 more pilots. This is between us and our regulator to figure out, but let me be unequivocal in the fact that we need to applaud every safety measure that we have, and we've got a professional, highly competent, transparent regulator, and they need to be applauded for that. On pilots, Akasa has 700 pilots today on our payrolls. The number may be 697, I'm rounding it up. If you look at how many pilots we need to fly 24 aircraft, it is not 700, it is probably half of that. So at Akasa, we've got this long-term plan, which thankfully has been built on our ability to attract pilots. So, we've talked about service excellence, but employee centricity is at the core of what we do at Akasa. And so we find ourselves incredibly lucky that pilots have chosen to work for Akasa. Very, very fortunate. And so at this point in time, we believe that over a long period of time, we have more than enough pilots. And so, I'd rather stay focused on just applauding the continuous focus and safety that our regulator has, as well as we as an airline have.
Tell me strategically, now that you've started on to international routes, is there any sort of tactical bent towards whether you're going to be a domestic carrier or international, or is it going to be both?
It's going to be both. Yeah, as simple as that. Sorry, just to say, while international is exciting, and we keep telling, our employees this, honestly, it is a huge moment for us to have this, our orange tail, being seen in Doha. If you can sort of visualize that for our employees that have toiled away at this. But at the end of the day, domestic and serving our customers here in our India homeland is super important.
Of course.
Okay. You're saying that pilots is not an issue, and even if there has been some delay in aircraft, it won't matter your growth much. But over the last 6 to 7 months, if you see, your market share has not grown. You might be flying more flights, but your competitors are also increasing the number of flights in the industry. Right. So how do you plan to increase your market share?
We don't plan for market share.
Okay.
And you can, have that as a headline. We plan for customer service. We plan for employee centricity. We plan for our cost structure. We've got 226 aircraft on order. And here's another first. If you look at the 120-year history of global aviation, there's not one airline in any part of the world that have placed an order of 226, well, not even close, not even 200 aircraft, not even 175 aircraft within 19 or 20 months. So growth in market share is something that we'll get over a period of time without having to focus on it, right? And so we're focused on financial stability, we're focused on service excellence, we're focused on employee centricity, we're focused on reliability. These are the things we're focused on. I don't even look at that market share statistic, because we know that by 2030, and here's a bold statement that I'll make, but we know by 2030, Akasa will be one of the top 30 airlines in the world by size.
Now that's our headline.
And listed?
By 2030, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sooner than that, I'm guessing.
We hope so. We hope so.
Okay. But, just coming back to the point that Somit was just making, you've still got about 200 aircraft orders still pending with Boeing,
202.
Right? 202. Okay.
Right.
So tell me, what is the delivery schedule like? Is it going to be 25 per year for 8 years?
It's it's not quite uniformly distributed.
Sure.
But we'll say these 202 remaining aircraft will be delivered by 2032.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes a little up and down. In the initial years, it'll be a little less. It's easier for us to absorb 30 aircraft on a base of 150 than it is to absorb 30 aircraft on a base of 40 or 50. So clearly the growth rate in terms of number of aircraft will be, will increase over time, even if the percentages decrease, but the number of aircraft deliveries by year will increase over time. Yeah.
One question on the current trends. Now Q4 is seasonally weak, but compared to last year, if we see air traffic has been actually better, at least 5 to 10% growth that we are seeing on a YOY basis. So is this because of more discounting that has been going on in the industry, or how are the traffic trends? Can you just guide us on that?
The traffic trends are incredible. The traffic trends And again, this has nothing to do with Akasa, right? This is an industry phenomena. This is, based on GDP growth. This is based on GDP per capita growth. This is based
on experience when I go to an airport at any time of the year.
Right, exactly.
I think now we're the fastest growing aviation market as
in
well.
the world.
Yeah.
And we will be for the next 20 years. This is not, the number of aircraft in India are going to double by 2030.
The number of
plus,
airports,
number
all
of
of it.
airports. I mean, the investment our government is making in airports is incredible. So what seems to be a seasonally weak quarter getting back is an incredibly strong quarter. And we think we'll continue to see these strong quarters for the next, 10 years. So for us, this is the golden age for airlines. This is perhaps the best time for the next 5 to 10 years. It's the best time to be an airline.
Yeah.
And not a bad time to be a traveler as well.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I
Just
know
be
we're
on
getting
time. That's about it.
we're getting requests to wrap it up, but it's not often that we have you in our studios. So one last question in terms of the forward booking for the summer season, if you could just share with us in terms of trends, pricing.
Yeah, incredibly strong. So incredibly strong. You said trends and pricing from a demand and booking perspective, incredibly strong. From a pricing perspective, I'd just like to say India has still and will continue for a long time to have some of the best prices in the world. And so that's the reason why for consumers it's fantastic as well.
Okay, and what amazing airports that we're seeing as well in India. I'm sure you have a favorite, do you? Across the world?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I'm happy in any airport.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. And we're happy to have you here in our studio. So thank you so very much for taking the time out and joining in. All right, that's none other than Vinay Dube, who said that it is a golden time to be within the aviation sector right now as a company and as a traveler.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.